Hey everyone, welcome to Frost Bites with Kelly Frost. I am the host, Kelly Frost, of course. Today we have Karen Scuilli and our co-host is Linda Long. We just got done talking to Karen. She's talking all about face-to-face healing, which is her 501c3 nonprofit. She has such an incredible story. It's very touching, and I'm just really blessed to have her as not only a guest today, but as a very close friend. So I hope you enjoy this episode and that you can reach out and support her, as we are going to be supporting her even more in the future with Peel and everything else that we do in our lives. So here comes Karen. Hi guys, welcome back to Frost Bites. We have Karen Scuilli here today, and we also have Linda Long as our co-host, and we are going to jump right into our interview with Karen.
Hi, I'm so glad to be here. Thank you for asking me.
Thank you so much for being here. I mean, we were so excited when you said yes, but I mean, who says no to us? So
Right. You can't say no to us.
No, absolutely
kind of the
not.
way it is, and I'm so glad you're going to be here all day.
Yeah, I am.
She says we share a brain. So I guess I'm glad my other half is here today.
We do share a brain, but she takes more than her half,
Oh, well.
which is
you
why
know.
I'm so forgetful, because she took most of the brain.
Okay, that makes sense.
I think that's just her excuse. That's what she likes to say. Yeah. We share a brain, we share a wardrobe, we share, just-
It's true.
I don't think we can talk about anything else we share.
No. Mm-mm. No, off limits.
Yeah. Well, we're glad to have you. I'm glad you can make it.
Thank you.
Yeah. It's a easy place to find, but sometimes people have a little bit of a challenge. We're at Mink Studios today, which is where we film all of our podcasts. And we're having a good time. We just found out that all of these vines in here are actual grapevines, and they're real. Would you have ever thought that?
No.
I wouldn't have either.
No, I wouldn't have. I just thought they were, silk flower things that you buy. I would have not thought they were real.
Yeah.
But now looking at them, I can see that they're real, and they wrapped
Yeah.
the leaves around it.
I mean, that's
Pretty cool.
It is really cool. Although, I mean, I don't know. Are they wasting valuable, possible wine?
Oh, that's alcohol abuse.
No. That's what I'm thinking
Truly
too.
is.
I mean, I'm not like a big wine drinker, but I know some of my
Me
friends.
neither.
Well, maybe they got them after they produced the wine or the grapes, So.
Yeah.
So you're like a cup half full kind of person.
I am.
That's great.
I always try to look at the bright side.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's not always easy, but there's always a little bit of a bright side.
That's true. That's true. All right. Well, let's talk about you since you're here.
Yes, absolutely.
So face-to-face healing.
Yes.
Let's start there, because you are going to be one of Peel's charity partners. Third quarter, we are bringing you on and putting you in front of everybody so that you can talk to the masses about face-to-face healing. So where did that get started from? So you're the founder of it.
Yes. I had cancer in 2012. I'm a nurse by background, and when I had the cancer, or when I had cancer, I should say, I was struggling. But when you're going through treatment, you have a plan. Doctors, this is what you have. These are your appointments. This is your chemo. This is your radiation. These are your surgeries. So you're forging ahead. And I just did everything I could because, my son was my why, and I wanted to make sure that I was here for him. At the time, he was 7. And I was forging ahead. And then when your treatments and your surgeries and your appointments are over, then you're kind of like left in that lull. And it's like, oh my gosh, now what? So then I was struggling because I had facial disfigurement, and I was trying to figure out where can I go to get help. I would go to psychiatrists and psychologists, and they didn't really understand the impact of what facial disfigurement and dealing with all that. So then they would ask me to speak to them and explain to them, like, what are you feeling? I'm like, I am still trying to wrap my head around all this because it's just, it's happening and it's just difficult. And I said, I really don't have words, And so I just felt it was like a waste of time because you're sitting there in silence, basically. So I was like, there's no sense of me coming back. So I kept asking my physicians, where do you send your patients? And they said, well, we don't know where they go. But me having a background in case management, I always look for bottlenecks in the system. So I'm like, well, here we go. There's no answer. So then maybe we should create something. So I actually was introduced to Louise Brown from the Chase Hospital Foundation, and she heard my story and she was compelled to help. So she gave us our first funding, and that's kind of how it started. So it was really exciting. I do have a background. I have a master's in nursing, master's in business. I'd never did anything with a nonprofit, but I just did a lot of reading and a lot of research, tapped into the Bear Center, and just looked at how do I start a nonprofit. So we incorporated. I sent the paperwork on my birthday, which was August 13th in 2014. And so we're incorporated on August 28th of 2014. And then 6 months after that, then we was able to get our 501c3 in 2015. And so that was very exciting. So it's just trying to figure out where you fit in and trying to help people. And it's, this year is 10 years. So it's really come a long way. And further than I ever imagined. But I found the secret to my healing is actually helping others. I mean, that's what we as nurses usually like to help people. Mm-hmm. We're not the care receivers. I'm not good at it, but I had to do it, and Linda can speak to that. You have to do it.
I'm hearing some similarities here.
Yeah, because what choice do you have, But then I wanted to show my son resilience and show him that, no matter what you face in life, you can push through it. And I leaned kind of closer to God. And I just said, okay, if I get through this, just tell me where I need to go. And so it was interesting through my career, people talk about, when you're butted up against something, difficult decisions, and it feels like it's really difficult and you can't push through even as hard as you want to, it just doesn't happen. And then when I was doing face-to-face healing, all the doors opened. Mm. It was just so easy, and I was just like, wow, this is my new mission.
That's what you were supposed to be doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you saw this huge need and decided to fill it.
Yeah. I mean, and it still, impacts me when I go to see patients or I talk to patients, and it takes me back to where I was, but knowing, and saying to them, I know it seems daunting right now and overwhelming, but you can get through it, and now you have us and you have our resources and our assistants and tapping in and collaborating with our physicians and healthcare providers to make sure that their journey is as seamless as possible. Because what I found is there's so many gaps in care, and I try to fill those gaps because that's, if you don't have knowledge of the medical world, I call it the medical maze, but if you don't have knowledge of that, you're kind of stuck, and then you don't know what you don't know. So you don't know what questions to ask, so those type of things, and knowing that, and the other thing I want to share is that, if you're with a doctor and you don't feel he's a right fit for you, get a second opinion. Don't stay with a doctor because that's his title. He's a doctor. If he's not listening to what you're saying and you're not a team, you have to be a team working together to beat your cancer and for your treatment, then go to somebody else because that's so important. My doctors were my team, and I could not have gotten through this without them. So,
have you found that people that are going through something catastrophic are already so fearful and just unsure of the future that they cling to their doctors, whether they're getting great care or not, and they're not sure where to go or what to do, so they just stay because they know that devil already?
Yeah, we do find that. And so it's talking to them and trying to make sure that the doctors, feeling their needs and listening to them. Like there's some patients we've had that they're very anxious and they're going through the process, and it's communication. You have to have that communication with your doctor and your healthcare providers. If you don't have that communication, then you feel like you're lost. You feel like you don't know what the next step is. So like having that, and so that's sometimes where we step in is like, I do the case management and I help fill that void. And so they know, like, I don't know when my next appointment, or I don't know when my surgery is supposed to be. And like, and granted, the doctor or the healthcare provider may have told them, but because it's so overwhelming, they didn't grasp it. So it's just making sure that everyone's on the same page to make it so much easier, so much more seamless, that there is no questions and there is no doubts. You know what I mean? I'm not going to say I didn't have doubts, but I really believed in my doctors. I would stop by the chapel. I was at Shadyside Hospital, and I stopped by the chapel every time I would go in for a surgery or a treatment, or I always took that opportunity. And it just made it so much easier. And I believed in my doctor so much that I would pray, that God would direct their hands like where they needed to be. And here I am. I mean, my cancer was stage 4, and it had metastasized into my mandible, maxilla, TMJ joint, external ear canal, and very, very close to my brainstem. So it was very possible that I could have died or had it go to my brainstem and not be able to speak. You know what I mean? So the fact I look at that, I don't really want to call it a gift, but I want to call it, because of God, I was able to do these things because he wanted me, he had a purpose, wanted me to be doing these things to help other people. So
if someone were to come to you, what would you tell them you can do for them, or that face-to-face healing can do for them? What would the first steps if someone came to you?
I would speak with them and hear their story, and then just make sure that I heard them correctly, and I would find things that I thought there were gaps, or I would say, so I heard you saying this, so is it okay that I collaborate with your doctor so we can make sure that we're on the same page? Sometimes, they need counseling because they're really struggling going through the treatment. I mean, every cancer patient goes through that altered self-image. I mean, so our mission actually is building a support through a community of individuals dealing with cancer, but also conditions causing an altered self-image. And many times the altered self-image is something that cancer patients go through, because whether it be breast cancer, whether it be, colon cancer or, kidney cancer, sometimes they end up with like a urostomy or a colostomy. And their scars may be hidden or minor or visible, but it doesn't change the fact that, and that just goes back to when you look at somebody, I want to look at the whole person and not look at the external pieces of it. So when you look at a person, I want them to be able to look at the inner beauty of the person, and that's what I want people to look at when they look at me, because it's a whole person. It's not just, they're not a condition. But going back to helping the individual, so I do have like an interview process. I see what their needs are. Is it counseling they need? Is it financial assistance, which we may be, because we don't really have a lot of funding for that right now, we might be putting that aside. Patient care packages, which we're able to provide, and we go see the patient in the home, we go see the patient in the hospital, at their doctor's appointments, wherever they need us to be, because sometimes they have a significant other, and sometimes they don't. With head and neck cancer survivors, it's a grueling illness or condition with all the treatments, and so we provide, it's called a writing tablet, because their voice is taken away. And then so I know that firsthand because that happened to me. And they would provide like a whiteboard with a black marker, and the black marker is everywhere except for on the whiteboard, on the sheets. Sometimes the marker splits, and slides onto the floor. I remember being in the hospital and you have a call-out, right? Well, when you cannot speak, when they say, "Can I help you?" and it's like, So I had them write on their, if someone cannot speak, you need to say, please just come to the room. So I had them do that, but I had a tablet writing, and being a nurse, I was trying to help direct my care the best I could. So I even did my own discharge planning because they were not doing it correctly. So I had to step in. Well, I had a trach and they wanted to send me to an LTAC, which everyone knows as a nurse that's full of infection. So I didn't want to go there. I wanted to go to rehab. And I think the biggest thing is listening to what the need is of the individual. I may have a different plan for them, but if it's not what the individual needs, it's not going to work.
And you're actually listening to them, where I think maybe what I'm hearing from you is that sometimes the doctors don't. They always think they're right.
Not all of them, but there are some that have the God complex, But I will say doctors are amazing. I mean, what they do and how they help us in the treatments now and the research that's out there for many of the cancers. Now, my cancer was parotid gland cancer, and so it's less than 1%. So it was not a whole lot of research out there then in 2012. There's more now. But the bigger cancers like breast cancer, that's there. Prostate, lung cancer, that's where research studies are because there's a bigger population. But it's just looking at, and the doctors do a great job. I mean, there are some that are very good at what they do. They can go in, do surgery. They just don't have that bedside manner. So, and that's okay. I mean, if you as a patient are okay with that, you don't need that bedside manner, or maybe the nurse practitioner is giving you that. You know what I mean? But you have to be comfortable with your doctor and and the team, because if they're not meeting your needs, I'll give you an example. I'm not going to say his name, but my goal through the whole thing, and I told Dr. Vasey, who was my head and neck surgeon, my goal is my son, I have to drop him off at school, in the morning, so I can come after that and I can go for my my radiation. And I would have chemo once a week. It was on Wednesdays. I have to be done by 1:30 to be able to go pick him up, because pickup was at 2:30. So I went to this oncologist and kept me in the waiting room for hours. Finally got into the waiting room. Then I had to go through my treatment, and I didn't get done until 6 o'clock. Now, granted, my parents were with me, so that wasn't they could go pick him up, and my ex-husband was working. So I was so upset that I called my head and neck surgeon and say, I promised you I would go through treatment, but as I stated, I cannot interrupt this because this is so important to me. And so he actually had reached out to this oncologist and said, listen, you have to figure out a plan to make it work for her, because I said to him, I'm not going to go through any more treatment, because this is what I need to have. And everyone has something, you know what I mean? Whether it's animals, whether it's a child at home. I mean, there's all kinds of things, but you have to know what their reason is. And if you can plan around that. So we did come up with a plan, and I never saw that doctor again. I always saw the PA, but, and I did see him once. He said to me, I got a call from Dr. Vasey, and I said, yes. And he said, well, he wasn't really happy because you were talking about canceling your treatment. I said, yes, because you didn't listen to me. So they developed a plan. But now, because I stepped in, I had talked to PR and different departments to say, first of all, I'm battling with cancer. Now, I was at the time 47 years old, but there's all these people out in the waiting room that are already immunocompromised. They cannot be out in the waiting room with different people and get an infection, and cause an issue. And so because I spoke up, then there actually were changes. So now they don't wait any longer than 10 minutes in the waiting room.
Wow.
They're back in the treatment room. Within 15 minutes, they see either the PA or the nurse or the physician. And so that helped things along, which is great. I'm happy for that, that I was able to incorporate that. I mean, I needed what I needed. And if you're not listening to me, like what and I think that's the thing. It's like if your healthcare providers or your doctor are not listening to you, I'm happy to help with that. But also, just speak up, and just say, hey, this is not working for me. How can we figure this out? So they would actually have me come in, my port would get accessed, I would get my IV fluids, they would do all my lab work. It usually takes an hour for your lab work. Then by the time the lab work came back, then I would go back to the doctor or the PA, and then they would review everything, determine whether or not I could go for treatment. So my process would start without me waiting in the waiting room. But they can do that for everybody.
Wow, what impact you had on all of that? Just causing change for all of those people. I mean, did you even realize you were going to have that much of an impact?
I was looking out for me, but when I was realizing, when I said to this, I said, but it's not just me. I said, I'm 47. You have people that are out there in their 60s, 70s, people that are already in comorbidities. You're leaving them out there amongst each other.
Right.
And so if one infection can spread to several people, so I think it's just, again, I'm always looking for the bottlenecks in the system and trying to figure out how can we make things better. Now, I originally was just looking for me, but ultimately, I'm really glad they were able to change their process. So.
But you had the knowledge. You used your voice where so many women don't. And by using your voice, you lent it to others. You told them exactly what they needed, how to go about getting it. And look at the change that you've made for people. I mean, a lot of people don't have the courage to do that, especially going through what you were going through and still doing that. That's amazing.
Oh, thank you.
Well,
I guess I didn't look at it like that, but thank you.
Well, most women don't look at it like that.
No, but we all see people now. We have medical knowledge, but so many people don't, and we see them looking at their doctors, like you say, that like they're gods, and they'll do, and they don't want to say anything. They don't want to, they don't feel like they, can question anything. And unfortunately, a lot of times you do have to question what's going on. And I'm not saying doctors don't know what they're doing, but like you say, each one of us has different needs. And so what works for you may not work for me, may not work for you. And so the doctors need to know that, and we need to all speak up for ourselves. But unfortunately, most people don't, and especially if you don't have any type of medical knowledge, like you say, you don't know what you don't know.
Correct.
And so they think, well, this is just the way it is. This is what the doctor said. I just have to do what the doctor says, and they do whatever.
And I will tell you, like smaller hospitals, and like are much different. They're more, I think, in touch with their patients. But, and again, some places say, well, you have to go to Pittsburgh because this type of cancer, and you have to get treatment. The thing now, like with UPNC, for example, they have treatment centers, like in Washington. Now it's part of UPNC, it's UPNC Washington. And so it makes it nicer because you formulate a plan. And like when my cancer was very, very rare. And so Dr. Eugene Myers actually formulated the plan of care for my type of cancer, squamous cell carcinoma of the parotid gland. And so when you get the plan, then you have the oncologist that looks at it. You have the, the radiation oncologist, and then you have a tumor board meeting. And so everyone's on board. They look at how things are and to see if there's any changes need to be done. So they do still try to individualize the plans of care based even, per NCC and guidelines. But it's just very interesting. But I'm glad that now, like, I live in Washington, so it would have been nice for me to have that opportunity. I had to drive into Pittsburgh because I knew if I didn't do what I promised I would do, I would not be here. So, it was tough. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, Linda. Everyone's cancer story is rough, and it's not the same. It's different for every person. But I had my mouth wired shut, and I had a trach, and so talking about someone who was very boisterous, and then I not lost my voice. That to me was the biggest punishment, not having a voice. But I was able to write and give direction, and then I befriended some of the younger nurses, and I would teach them, because some of them never did trach care. So, like different things like that. So I tried to use my knowledge to help other people. And then that kind of like led me to, well, if I'm doing this and teaching, then why can't I, do something more? And so that's kind of like how it led to face-to-face healings. Like, and I would love to be able to educate more people, about survivorship. Because
What's stopping you?
Yeah, I know. Right? So I'm involved in the American Cancer Society, but also the Oncology Nursing Society, and so different things, advocacy. So I'm really looking into some of that. Really is interesting to me. So I'm looking at trying to advocate for cancer patients, because I feel like if I'm in the room or at the table, then I feel like being a nurse and a cancer survivor, that I have more to say.
And getting a seat at the table is the first step, but
Right.
I don't think anything could stop you.
No, myself.
Well, everybody gets in their own way. And clearly you're doing the same thing as everybody else does. So step aside.
Yeah.
And let the other Karen walk forward.
I know. I look back and I think, oh my God, like how far I've come. And, I was diagnosed in 2012, and now where I'm at and what I'm doing, it's amazing to me that, but again, I was always looking at, I love to learn. And so as long as I'm learning and I'm able to, build that desire in myself, then I think that's what's important. But yeah,
Clearly you love to teach too.
I love to teach. And that's funny you say that, because I have it on my bucket list to get my PhD, because I love to teach. And I know I have 2 masters, and I know I could teach with those, but still it's on my bucket list to get my PhD and write a book. But my son...
And conquer the world.
Yes, conquer the world on top of that.
I could do that.
My son just went to school. He wants to get his PhD in exercise science. I'm like, no, you can't get your PhD before me. So. Anyway. Yeah.
Well, I think you could definitely do whatever it is that you wanted to do.
Yeah.
But just start. You just got to get started.
I know.
Take the first step.
You're right.
That's all you need to do. Take the first step.
Right.
And you kind of have a huge tribe behind you.
I do.
So it's not as if you're by yourself or you're ever going to be alone. And if you ever stumbled, you would never fall, because everybody would get you.
You're right.
And if you had questions or you needed connections, pretty sure we'd have those for you too.
Yeah, we sure would.
And
So then you dragged this one along with you. Now she's on your board.
Correct. Very blessed to have Linda on my board, yes.
So what is her role?
I think just being, I think that's what's caused me to have small amounts of effect, I guess, because it's basically been me. I have Adriana as well, but getting board members to actually help, because they have different connections than I do, and so being able to have them speak about face-to-face healing and speak to their individuals or their connections about face-to-face healing, and it's just a struggle of like getting funding and that type of thing. So it's just, that's the hardest part. And I've learned so much, being executive director, and there's so many different shoes you have to wear, hats you have to wear. But I've learned so much in regards to fundraising and, the QuickBooks and, all that type of stuff that goes along with that.
She said shoes you got to wear.
Yeah.
I might have to start using
Instead of hats.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm not a hat girl, but I'm definitely a shoe girl.
I'm not a hat girl
Super.
either, so, but yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so let me ask you a question. So Linda, being sort of newer to the board, so let's say she's at a networking event, like PO, and you're not there, Adrian's not there, and she's the only one from face-to-face there, and someone comes up to Linda and says, just very briefly, so what's face-to-face healing? What is that? What would be like 2 lines that she could say to explain what that is?
Community of support for cancer patients or conditions causing an altered self-image. I think that's the first thing. And then if they want to learn more, we have a website. Of course, I'm sure you'll share that. But it's really about cancer survivors helping other cancer survivors.
And how do they do that?
How do we help cancer survivors?
Very quickly. Because that will be a question she'll probably be asked. How do they do that?
I think it's bursting in that conversation to see what their needs are and listening, actively listening to what their needs are and seeing, and then being a nurse and having that background, being able to interject where things need to take place. I mean, counseling? Is it case management or helping through that medical maze? Because oftentimes that's what it is. Is it like I like to talk to people when they first get diagnosed because that's the best time, because that's when they're overwhelmed because they're, you can only retain like 5 minutes of a conversation. So when they're going through all this different stuff, you listen to, I have cancer. That's it. That's all you got. So then
your brain
can,
stops.
Yep. That's all you can comprehend. I have cancer. You have cancer. So, but like helping them, I guess the best way is taking ownership and leading your path through your cancer journey and not being a backseat driver, like being involved in the front seat driver and giving knowledge is power. So giving them the knowledge and the tool set to be able to get through their journey.
Okay.
Now, if they want you to, do you go to their doctor's appointments with them?
Yes.
Okay. Because obviously 4 ears are better than 2. And like you say, you hear the word cancer and your brain just shuts down. And whatever is said after that is just blah, 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 blah. That's what you hear.
It sounds like
I'm peanuts.
Yeah.
That's what it sounds like because all you hear is cancer. And your brain just kind of like shuts down. So I know my husband always went with me, but, thank God I had him. Yeah. And he would listen because I missed half what they were saying. And so he was able to fill in the blanks. So that's wonderful that you can do that. Now, also tell the people, are you doing this all by yourself? You have other people that go out and help and visit patients and
so we have volunteers that want to get involved. We have Adriana helps. If I need to, I can call on the board, to help. And I think it's just having the individual know that they're seen, to know that they mean or they're valued. I think for me, I felt I lost my voice. That was very important to me. I was no longer seen. Like people would look past me, or people would not do the eye contact, or I would say hi, and they would like look down. So it's acknowledging that person, and because I had facial disfigurement, it didn't make me less. And I think the other thing, and I know, Linda, you agree on this, but you're not the condition. You are so much more. We're more than our face. We're more than our scars. And so you are still you, but you don't feel like you anymore. I explained my journey as I was so careful about building my life puzzle. And then this cancer came along and the puzzle blew up. And so then there were pieces that were smaller, pieces that are bigger, and all these voids. And it's trying to figure out, how do I collect all those pieces, or how do I collect myself and move forward? Because if you're stuck in that journey and you don't move forward, you don't, and that's the hardest place. And that's where I struggle to explain to them, like, there are moments in time. This is not how it's going to always be. It's going to get better. It may not be your life before. Your life before is gone. So you have to grieve that life, and you have to figure out, now, what is my new life going to look like? So I said, you get a chance to start over. Like, what do you want to do? What is important to you? What are your priorities? So that way you can structure your life the way you want to and live your life the way you want to.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
So I always get asked this question, and I don't care for it because I can't remember my own name sometimes, let alone this. But people always say to me, like, oh, how did you ever meet so-and-so? Or, how are you friends with so-and-so? And I never can remember the first time I met someone, or how we've become friends. Do you remember the first time that we met? See?
No, I'm thinking.
I know. Isn't that crazy? I'm not even sure I remember how you and I met.
I believe we met through Shelley. and I was a part of Inspired Women. That's how we met.
I think it was through 2018.
Yeah.
Through the magazine on that shoot.
And Rachel and I and Hanifa, we did a photo shoot, and Sally Power was so gracious of gifting us clothes for the photo shoot. And yes, having her makeup done. That to me was like the beginning of me coming out, like, because I was hiding for so long, you know, and the person I was gone. And I'm like, how do I, like, I'm a nurse and I'm, you know, a mom and, you know, I'm all these different things, but like those things I could not do. Like I remember being so weak that I couldn't even kick a soccer ball. And that was totally different than how I was, because I was always interactive with my son. And he's like, Mommy, where did you go? So that was like the kicker to me. But then on the bad days, I remember one time he said to me, Mommy, you can't go anywhere. That'll just leave me with Daddy, and Daddy doesn't know me like you do. And that was my kick in my pants. I said, you know what? I'll figure it out. I may not have the answers, and I made a lot of mistakes, but I'll figure it out. So,
wow.
But yeah.
Well, I have to tell you that after that photo shoot, now I wasn't on the shoot, at that time in my life, I was going through some issues and kind of hiding. You know, I was not out in public that much, and just, I think that was my crying phase. I said, I don't cry now because, you know, I kind of,
seen you cry.
I've lost all my tears.
Yeah.
But at that time, I was hiding. I didn't want to really be in any kind of spotlight. I was always behind the doors, behind the cameras, behind everything else. So that's one of the reasons I wasn't on that shoot. But then after the three of you were on that shoot, and then obviously, you know, I was working on the magazine, after seeing all those photos and then hearing from the photographer, hearing from the makeup artist about how inspiring it was and how strong and courageous all three of you were, I felt like I should be more like the three of you.
Oh, well, thank you for saying that.
And that there's no reason for me to be behind doors, and that if the three of you can do it and be out there and doing, and I never had hair and makeup and wasn't doing anything like that, but that just the fact that you were in public and just putting your voice out there and your story out there. And I just felt like if you could do it, I could. So even though you may not know how many lives you're actually impacting, you are.
Oh, thank you.
And people may never tell you that. And like I said, this was 2018, and I'm telling you that now, and it's 2024. So think of all the lives you've impacted since then.
Well, I think we all have scars. They could be invisible. They could be visible. So, and I just want everyone to know that you matter. It doesn't matter what you've been through. And leaning in, and I call them my angels. Like, I've had so many angels throughout my life that came when I really needed them. Mm-hmm. And some of them were there, had been there through the long haul. Some of them have, you know, like on a bus, you jump on when you need them and then they jump off. Some of them, you know, are only for stages, but you definitely need angels. You need the support. And so, but if you don't share what you're going through to somebody else, like I couldn't talk to my mom or my son about what I was going through. So I did cry, cried in a pillow, and I would scream in a pillow and like, you know, why me, God? And like, why didn't you just take me? This is like horrible. But he didn't. So I'm like, okay, well then I guess I have to figure something out, right? But I think kindness is so important. Like being kind, it doesn't take anything. Giving a smile. I do acts of kindness every day. Whether it's complimenting someone on what they're wearing or something, you know, because they may be having a bad day. You don't know what people are facing because their stuff is hidden, you know, but it doesn't take any effort to be kind or to smile. I mean, that's the best gift you can actually give to anybody.
We talk about kindness all the time.
Yeah.
So you know, with my son, he was in school and we did kindness campaigns. We would go around the dollar store and we would actually hide dollar bills and we'd kind of like, you know, step back and watch them, you know, find them. They'll be so excited and, you know, pay for people in the meter, like different things, you know. You can do so many different things to act of kindness. It doesn't really matter what it is. but every day, I mean, is an opportunity to be better. And I look at life differently. I used to say, next year I'll go on vacation, or I'll do that, next year I'll get to that, but now it's like, you know what?
Better do it now.
Better do it now.
Yep.
I mean, I just like the 50 over 50. I wasn't in a good place, I don't think physically, I'm not happy with myself physically, but then it's like, you know what? It's presented to me now. I'm going to take the opportunity.
And just so you know, nobody's happy with themselves physically.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny for me. It's like it's hard for me to look at myself in pictures, because in my mind, I feel okay. Mm-hmm. When I go to put my makeup on, I'm not okay because it's hard as heck to do my right eye, but I deal with that. But I've gotten to the point where I've accepted who I am. Mm-hmm. And it's I'm so much more than how I look on the outside. So I think that's what I want everyone to know, is that you may find or see your flaws, but someone else is not going to necessarily see them.
That's so true.
Oh, and you are more than your flaws. You know what I mean? And what would you say to your friend who was going through that? Would you be kind? So be kind to yourself.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we are much nicer to our friends than we are to ourselves.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah. We are our own worst enemies.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, you hear that all the time, but it's absolutely true. I mean, you're looking at yourself, seeing all these flaws, but nobody else even sees them.
What are you talking about? I don't see that.
I don't see that.
Yep.
So can you clarify for us a little bit? I know you said that a lot of your patients are cancer patients, but are other people able to get your support that maybe haven't had to deal with cancer? Thank God.
Yeah. I mean, so like Bell's palsy, it could be an aroma. I mean, there's different things that happen on a person's face. Scarring on the face, for whatever reason. They could be in an accident, and have scars. Like a tire blew up, or, there's different freak things. They were doing fireworks, and then, so it doesn't really matter what caused. But if you have an altered self-image, and I mean, sometimes it's a blotched plastic surgery, you know what I mean? It's just, and that's a whole nother thing because they're never going to be happy. So it's just trying to help them through the whole process. I talk with people with that, and it's so hard because they like nitpick every little thing about their face, and it's like, you got to stop, And so that's where I handed off to Adrian. I was like, you know what? this is your realm. I can't help them any further. They need to understand that, their beauty is only in the eye of the beholder. And so when you're not seeing it yourself, then, it's so much more than that.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Yeah. Well, this has been enlightening.
Oh, thank you.
Really. I mean, I really thought I knew a lot about face-to-face, but I feel like now I really understand.
Yeah.
And I think you're just scratching the surface of what you're doing, and, we're all here to help you in any way that we can. And I think it's good for you to continue to talk about it, and, so that the people that are around you understand more and know how to support you, and not just you, but your organization and everybody who is part of that as well. Because I think there's so many people that would want to be more involved, but they just don't know how. So we'll have to add some things in the description on how to volunteer and how to help, and things that maybe you have coming up that we can participate in.
Yep.
So we'll continue to just keep adding to that list and how we can.
Yeah, I mean, I like having volunteers, and sometimes it's cancer survivors or somebody who just has been affected by cancer. It could be like a daughter of somebody, or, you know what I mean, a granddaughter. So there's different people that have been affected by cancer. And so, it's not just the individual. It's a ripple effect.
Sure.
So it's to everybody around them. And you may not realize that, but like even my son, and it took several years for him to like start talking about it. And I thought I was doing a great job. And then he would come back and ask me questions. And I'm like, oh my God, I thought I already covered this, but obviously I didn't. And he was holding on to this, So, but like for him, like now my new thing, I'm really trying to get healthier because I don't want, I'm 58, And this year I'll be 59, and so I don't want him worrying about me. And that's a whole new issue with being an empty nester and dealing with all that and trying to keep myself busy, and so I'm not really missing him as much.
You should just start a podcast. That's what I did.
Oh yeah, well, yeah.
Empty nest. Just start a podcast.
Anyway, but thank you for this opportunity. I greatly appreciate you both.
For coming. Well, we like to end all of our podcasts with what we call a frostbite.
Okay.
And I always let my co-host ask the questions. So Linda is going to ask you a frostbite.
I have a question for you. I think I already know the answer, but but that's okay. So could you provide us one frostbite of knowledge, that's solid, undeniable truth that keeps you motivated even when things get tough?
I think that through the grace of God, I think that knowing that I may only impact one person, but again, ripple effect, that person may affect another person. So it's like really knowing that I can help one person, but it may be more than that one person, but knowing that I have to do my part and help and be kind and spread, joy and love and hope.
Wonderful.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, that'll do it for us on this episode of Frostbites with Karen and the lovely Linda. And I'll tell you what, she impacted me, and hopefully you guys are going to be the ripple effect of that. So we will see you in the next time. Thanks for watching.